Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a trip back in time, but we're skipping the usual highlight reel. Forget the gleaming white marble and the heroic myths for a moment. We're going to pull back the curtain on ancient Greece and reveal the gritty, often brutal, reality that lay beneath the surface. This is the side of history they don't always teach you in school: the sweat, the superstition, and the secrets hidden in the shadows of the Acropolis. So buckle up, because we're about to find out what life was really asterisk-like. Let's start with a reality check. You think you'd thrive in the birthplace of democracy? Think again? For most people, you probably wouldn't last a single day in ancient Athens. Imagine a city with no sanitation system. The streets would be narrow, unpaved, and filled with a lovely mix of animal waste, garbage, and whatever people threw out of their windows. The noise would be relentless: merchants shouting, animals bleating, craftsmen hammering away from sunrise to sunset, and the housing. If you weren't part of the wealthy elite, your home would be a small, windowless, mud brick apartment in a crowded multi-story tenement. These buildings were dark, stuffy, and prone to collapsing or catching fire. Forget privacy. You'd be living on top of your neighbors, hearing every argument and every cough. The air would be thick with dust and the smoke from countless fires. Summers would be suffocatingly hot, and winters would be damp and cold. While the wealthy debated philosophy in their spacious villas, the vast majority of the population was just struggling to survive in conditions that would make our modern cities look like a paradise. It was a world where basic survival was a daily battle. Now, let's turn to one of the most famous figures in all of history: Socrates. We remember him as the father of Western philosophy, the wise man who wandered Athens asking profound questions. But his final days tell a story not just of wisdom, but of defiance against a system that couldn't handle his truth. In 399 BC, Socrates was put on trial. The charges: corrupting the youth and impiety, basically, not respecting the city's gods. But what was he really guilty of? He was guilty of making powerful people uncomfortable. He challenged their authority, exposed their ignorance, and encouraged young people to think for themselves. During his trial, Socrates refused to back down. He didn't beg for mercy or propose a lenient punishment. Instead, he sarcastically suggested his punishment should be free meals for life at the public's expense, like an Olympic hero. This audacity sealed his fate. The jury, made up of 501 Athenian citizens, sentenced him to death. His final moments are both tragic and incredibly powerful. Surrounded by his devastated friends and students, Socrates remained calm. He discussed the nature of the soul and the afterlife, treating his own death as his final philosophical lesson. Then, he drank the cup of hemlock, a poison that slowly paralyzed his body from the feet up. His death wasn't just the end of a man. It was a stark reminder that even the celebrated democracy of Athens had its limits and could be deeply intolerant of those who dared to question the status quo. From the city of Athens, let's journey to the mystical slopes of Mount Parnassus, to the most famous religious site in the ancient world, the Oracle at Delphi. For centuries, kings, generals, and ordinary people flocked here, seeking guidance from the god Apollo, spoken through his priestess, the Pythia. The image we have is one of divine prophecy, a direct line to the gods. But the reality was a masterclass in psychology, politics, and maybe even geology. The Pythia would sit on a tripod over a fissure in the earth, inhaling what were believed to be sacred vapors. Modern science suggests these could have been ethylene gases, which can induce a trance-like state. Once in her trance, she would babble words that the priests would interpret into cryptic verses. And that's where the real power lay with the priests. These riddles were intentionally ambiguous. When King Croesus of Lydia asked if he should attack Persia, the oracle said, "If you cross the river, a great empire will be destroyed." He attacked, and a great empire was destroyed, his own. The oracle was never wrong because the prophecies could be interpreted to fit any outcome. It was a brilliant system of influence and information gathering. The priests at Delphi were well-connected, politically savvy, and used the oracle to maintain their power and manipulate the affairs of the Greek world. It was faith wrapped in smoke, riddles, and cold, hard political calculation. Finally, let's step inside the exclusive world of the Athenian elite, to one of their famous symposia, or banquets. Picture this: Wealthy men reclining on couches surrounded by fine food, listening to music and poetry, and engaging in witty philosophical debate. They drink wine from ornate gold and silver cups, celebrating beauty, intellect, and the good life. It sounds idyllic, doesn't it? But this beautiful scene had a dark underbelly. First, who was serving them? Slaves. An enormous number of enslaved people propped up this entire lifestyle, their labor and suffering completely invisible to the men they served. Furthermore, these banquets weren't just about philosophy. They were often wild, drunken affairs. While the men debated the nature of virtue, they were entertained by hired musicians, dancers, and courtesans, often young women and boys whose consent was, at best, questionable. The beautiful pottery they used often depicted scenes that were far from philosophical, showing the explicit and sometimes brutal reality of these encounters. The symposium was a microcosm of Athenian society, a dazzling display of culture and intellect for a select few. Built on a foundation of exploitation and hidden cruelty, the beauty was real, but it came at a price that was paid by others, a truth often conveniently left out of the story. So, the next time you see a statue of a Greek god, or a picture of the Parthenon, remember what lay beneath the polished marble. Ancient Greece gave us democracy, philosophy, and art that still inspire us today. But it was also a place of immense hardship, brutal inequality, and sophisticated manipulation. It was a world where wisdom could get you killed, where faith was a tool of power, and where beauty often concealed cruelty. By looking at the complete picture, the light and the dark, we don't diminish its legacy. We gain a deeper, more honest understanding of our own history and the complex world they built. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the hidden truths of ancient Greece. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button. And do not forget to subscribe and ring the bell, so you don't miss our next deep dive into history. Let me know in the comments what part of this surprised you the most. Until next time, stay curious.
Stranded in the open, dried out tears of sorrow, lacking all emotion, staring down the barrel, waiting for
कमरे में घुसता जैसे हाथी, टेबल बैठा तो फिर गांधी, करते मोटा 4 शो का होते दंगे, चलती लाठी। हमने हार से सीखा और सीखों से जीत बना दी। सोना था हराम तभी तो किस्मत हो रही चांदी चांदी। एक दिन रहता दिल्ली, दूजे दिन मैं बैठा बाली, पंगा चीते से तो समझो रास्ता बिल्ली काटे काली। I can see through all of them, ये रैपर सबके सब है जाली। जब जब बैरी मांगे पैर, तब तब बैरी मांगे पानी, you know।